Like I said, I got to turn that on. 3 o'clock on a Friday. Welcome aboard the Postgame Show.
Already forgetting how the buttons work.
Actually, no, I looked down. I was talking to Terry, and I looked down, and I hit the off button instead of the on button. And it was already off. So you know what that does? It just keeps it off.
Oh, it makes it double off.
He's Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. In my own head right now, I don't sound good, but I'm here. I'm not complaining.
You sound different. You can tell you sound a little under the weather, but you don't sound terrible.
But
sounded worse yesterday.
I didn't want to miss yesterday, but y'all would not have wanted to hear me talk yesterday. And quite honestly, if I had started talking for any length of time, it would have probably been even worse. But it happens when you get sick. And I told Tyler, when you talk for a living and you can't talk, there's not much you can do about it.
It's like spraining an ankle and playing basketball.
Yeah, you can't do it, man. You just can't do it. But I'm here, and I'm good to go. I don't know. I'm running on about, let's go 70%, 65,
okay.
70. Not bad.
That's not bad at all.
Not bad. The good news is when you have one of these bugs, still have my appetite, so that's good. Can still taste, which is
better
good.
Than bed bugs.
I hate when you're sick and you can't taste anything. You know what I mean? And it's just that weird, like, what
it's
am I?
The worst. Yeah. Like you can feel the texture of the food in your mouth, but you are not tasting.
I can't taste it. I hate that. We got a lot to do on today's program. At the top of the four, the head football coach of the University of South Carolina, Shane Beamer, will join us, fresh from his and many others' trips to Destin, Florida for the SEC spring meetings. And Shane was interviewed and gave his take on scheduling. We'll touch more on that. Shane, like a lot, basically saying Carolina Clemson's not going anywhere. Don't worry about that. But what does the future look like? Elijah and I were talking this morning. I'll just cut to the chase real quick here. There's been a lot of talk about strength of schedule. And I did see some of the handout that was given to media that attended the spring meetings from the conference, noting strength of record, which I had to have Elijah explain to me. I think I know what strength of record is.
I think you do too.
But
the spirit of it.
Yeah. Because I asked you, is it kind of like war for players, like wins above replacement? And
it's exactly what it is. It's war, but with teams.
Yeah, so I get it, and that's cool. And the SEC, it dominates that metric, and it dominates the strength of schedule metrics, and it dominates the power index metrics and all that kind of stuff. And that's great. That's great. I still believe, as does my co-host, that strength of schedule was taken into account last year as the final teams were decided for the 12-school college football playoff. But the SEC wants more. And Greg Sankey, in so many words this week, saying we want clarity, we need assurances and things. And this comes down to whether or not to go to a ninth conference game, whether or not to potentially try some form of SEC Big Ten challenge, or as Elijah and I have agreed, and I hope a lot of you do as well, I would just like to see this across the board. I mean, let's rotate every 3 years or every 6 years or something. I don't know how you want to do it, but let's do an ACC SEC and an ACC Big 12 and a Big 12 Big 10 and an SEC Big 12, all of that. Let's do that.
Getting an interconference sample size that is large enough to base these decisions off of.
And here again is why I believe that the newest playoff format of 5+11 could – look, I'm not going to use the word fair. And I saw today that Bob Bowlesby Brett Yormark. I keep doing that. That's the third time this week I've done that.
Third time this week.
Brett Yormark.
Yeah, chopped liver over here.
Bowlesby is out. Brett Yormark saying that 5+11 is the most fair. Well, to whom? Probably to everybody, but fair, again, fair and unfair. I tell you, sometimes I use a James Bond quote. Bond goes looking for a bad guy, and he meets someone who probably knows where the bad guy is, not the bad guy himself. And he says, I'm looking for a terrorist. I won't do it in an English accent. All right, it's a Pierce Brosnan, one of the Pierce Brosnans. He says, I'm looking for a terrorist. And the guy says to him, One man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. And so fair and unfair can be very subjective feelings when it comes to this. But at the same time, to come up with what Elijah and I talked about today, and I want to ask Langston about this, and we may well ask Coach Beamer about this too. Langston will join us coming up in just a few minutes. Is there something that college football leadership can come up with, and by come up with, pay some really good mathematicians to equate the basketball net ranking, where, in other words, you will see, like, look, the Southeastern Conference got 14 schools into the basketball tournament. And as a percentage, that's pretty hefty. That's nearly 25% of the field, right? I mean, so could you see that in football? Could you see 5 schools making a 16-school format? I could, definitely. But others may say, "Oh, that's just the SEC. How do we know they're good?" Well, let's come up with something. And one of the things that I think we all appreciate, whether or not we like it or not, appreciation can be different. I like the quad system in football in basketball and baseball, because it does lend itself to at least showing a school's willingness to play more difficult games, whether in or out of conference. Certainly within conference, you can't necessarily control what your schools do. Like we mentioned the other day, nobody wanted Purdue to go over, but they did. And just a couple of years ago, Purdue was winning 8 games. That's why Jeff Brom left and went to Louisville, because that's where he played, and they wanted him and whatever, and Purdue hadn't recovered yet.
Drew Brees hadn't walked back to that.
He has not, nor Bob Greasy or Gary Danielson
Kyle
Ort or anybody else, man. So, can we come up with that? Yes. Will they? I'd like them to, because if that's the kind of clarity, I've air quoted, that Greg Sankey and others in the conference are looking for, I don't know that you're going to be able to get a revolving group of people, selection committee, to look you in the eye and go, Greg, we got you on strength of schedule. You're good, bro. Don't you worry about it. Because, again, subjectivity. I don't know what one member or 2 members or 3 members think relative to 3 or 4 other members. I don't. And it's not about school bias or where you went or who you played for or who you coached for some of those people on the committee. I don't worry about that nearly as much as some fans do who are convinced. Again, you and I joked about it. If Tommy Tuberville, who's now apparently running for governor of Alabama, I don't know why you want to get out of the U.S. Senate, but whatever.
Pretty cushy job.
That's a good gig if you can get it, man. It ain't but 100 of them. And you might say there's only 50 governors. I'd rather be a senator. That's another story. The voters of Alabama, by and large, obviously, appreciate Tommy Tuberville's politics. And whether they're Bama fans or whatever, they voted for him. But if Tommy Tuberville were named commissioner of the Southeastern Conference, Alabama fans would have had a heart attack.
They would hate it. They would turn on him so fast.
So you got to, and that's the kind of thing that a lot of people deal with is, he's biased against. Well, we'll see. I don't know. So let's take it out of their hands. And I think a lot of people, Elijah, to come around to it, want to see that happen. They want the committee to have less influence. You still need the committee, and I appreciate that. You do.
Yes.
You do need the committee to weed out the final few, right? And in the grand scheme, isn't that really their job?
That's all it is.
You're weeding out the final few. You're
because
taking
your first 6 or 7 are obvious.
Yeah, you know who's in, right? You know who's in. And that's what we always say. In basketball, it's like the last 8 spots. It's about 20 schools for those last 8 spots. That's the committee's. That's where the real hard work is done. So can we get that kind of clarity? Yes. Will we? I'd like to see them expend some energy on some type of formula that basketball and baseball use.
There's a difference between wanting clarity and not being okay with somebody's answer when asked for clarity, right? I think the SEC just didn't like the answer they got. Like, look, the fact that you had 3 9-3 teams on the cusp of the college football playoff tells you that strength of schedule was heavily factored, right? But then also, SEC coaches made a stink a couple weeks leading up into championship weekend that we might not want to play an SEC championship game if we think we're in the college football playoff. We don't want to risk losing it. Well, then the head of the college football playoff committee said, okay, well, we're not going to punish losers of the conference title game if you're already in the field. Well, they got that reassurance, and guess what happened? A team that was in the field, SMU, lost the conference championship game to Clemson, and that took one of those SEC bids away.
Right.
That Clemson played bid thief, right? You got the reassurance that you wanted.
Again, blame Miami. It's all Miami's fault.
Miami.
Yeah, it's Miami's fault.
Blame Miami.
I'm serious about that too. Again, if Miami, I've said it before, if Miami wants to be good again at football, and they do, you got to go to Syracuse and win.
Especially with a trip to the ACC title.
And I know Fran's done a good job at the Q's. I'm happy for Fran. I'm happy for Orange fans. It's great. But for Miami, you got to beat Syracuse in football to get the things you want. You have to win that game.
Guess what? 2 9-3 schools were behind the 3 SEC schools that were also 9-3. Syracuse and Miami.
Yeah.
And Miami won at Florida earlier this year too. The same Florida team that beat Ole Miss.
Comfortably.
Kept Ole Miss out. Yeah, comfortably. Hammered Florida at Florida.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think with the SEC, it's they got their answer. I don't think it's a lack of clarity, because I think everything that happened in the playoff this year was very explainable.
Yes.
I just don't think they like the answer, right? It's like when I was a kid and I would ask my dad if I could spend the night at a friend's house and he told me no. I'm not upset that he didn't give me a clear answer. I'm upset he told me no.
Right.
And there's no amount of explanation as to why I can't stay at my friend's house that would make me feel better about him saying no. So the only thing I can do is just try to disagree with the answer.
Yeah, I was told I couldn't go to a Van Halen concert without a chaperone.
Ooh, he didn't like that answer.
But I was like 13. And at the time, I was like, oh, why? It's just Van Halen.
You're like, I can handle this.
What's going to happen? Yeah, I get it. We'll touch on those things with Langston, some NFL stuff. Have we talked to? Have we had Langston on since the draft? I don't think we have.
I don't think we have. No.
All right, so we'll talk about the Gamecock draft picks. I'm sure we'll get into some food and other fun things and what Langston's been up to.
Oh, we always get into food.
Yeah,
Langston, always.
Yeah. So we'll get that. And again, Coach Beamer live, top of the 4 with Mr. Campbell. We're in downtown Columbia, wherever you are. Thank you for being with us, and send me your thoughts and prayers.
Or some cough drops if you want to drop them.
You know
off
what? I thought we had some at my house
at the studio,
and we don't.
Ooh,
I thought we did, and I didn't have time. And I didn't have time to go get some before.
Great for times like these.
Some of those Ludens that are basically just candy.
Yeah.
Free plug for Luden's cherry cough drops. Just give me a Jolly Rancher at that point, right? Do you like Jolly?
A Jolly Rancher ain't gonna help your throat.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see. All right, lots to do here. Langston Moore on the other side of the break. It's the Postgame Show. 18 minutes after 3 o'clock on this Friday. Welcome back into the Postgame Show. Jay Phillips and Elijah Campbell with you. Appreciate Elijah, as I always do, but holding down the fort yesterday. Yours truly, y'all didn't want to hear me yesterday.
Oh.
Some of you may never want to hear me, and I appreciate that too. But
yesterday sounded rough. You needed that rest, I will say. I will agree. You needed that rest. Yeah. But, we got my boy Michael Sauls from the State Paper came here, hung out with me for an hour, and
it's good.
Got to talk.
Appreciate Michael as well.
Went over a fun study on how advantageous or disadvantageous it is for elite 5-star recruits to transfer. Very fascinating stuff there.
Well, speaking of advantageous, it's always that way when our good friend Langston Moore joins the program, the former Gamecock D lineman, team captain, draft pick of the Cincinnati Bengals, longtime NFLer, husband, father, softball expert, children's book author, navigator of the back roads of Texas and beyond, barbecue expert, low country seafood expert as well, growing up in Charleston.
I do love low country seafood.
Now an expert on all things Washington, D.C., as his daughter is in school up there. What did I miss? It's good to have you back. How are you?
And just trying to fill out my Kinsburn bio. You know what I'm saying? I saw he was down in the low country getting ready. That's how I know I'm officially old, Jay. I have my monthly subscription to PBS just so I can see all the Kim Burns documentaries. And so there was a time when I was a kid, I'd be like, why does my mama always got it on SCE TV, PBS? And here I am. See, be careful what you say you ain't gonna do, kids, because eventually it's waiting for you.
Yeah,
you see the light eventually.
PBS has some pretty good stuff on it. Man, you got some good mysteries and whatnot from time to time.
I'm just saying, Jay, there's a lot of content on there, man.
They got stuff.
I mean, it's not Paramount yet, it's not Hulu yet, but I mean, every now and again I'll be like, is there a basketball game on tonight? Maybe we turn to PBS tonight. I don't know.
I see. That's good. That means we all have some culture in us, which is a positive, because we could probably use a little more of that. Elijah and I just were talking. We don't believe that you have been part of the program since the National Football League draft. Does that sound right to you?
I think so. I think we did. We were supposed to do 2 days, and typical Lou Holtz fashion, I let you down on one day, but I was there the next week. So it feels about right. It feels like hadn't been on since then. But the world's been worlding. We've been running around doing our school visits, and of course, getting close to the end of the year with graduations and everything. So complete opposite for me this time of year, because this time last year I was getting ready, tears in my eyes all the way till August because of high school graduations. Now I'm walking around kind of laughing and looking at people on social media like, get yourself together. What's wrong with you? Come
on. NFL right now, I'm just going to – I want to jump into there, then we'll get into some Gamecock stuff. But what is going on with the Pittsburgh Steelers, man? I mean, I don't quite – I told Elijah it feels like the Steelers are in danger of becoming the Giants, and I think you know what I mean by that, Langston. This is a franchise that has won the Super Bowl 6 times. Giants I think have 4, and they've been, and the Jets are one thing, the Giants were another, and now the Giants aren't any good. But Pittsburgh seems to not quite have a grasp on who they are anymore. What from a player perspective do you see in what's not happening with the Steelers?
From a player's perspective, it feels like it's been in limbo, and it kind of been in limbo for the last maybe 3-4 seasons. And then, so again, not losing, always still, Mike Tomlin still kind of the steady steward of this program, and obviously leadership and management has kind of fell in line with that, and that's where you see a lot of success, and that's the reason why the Steelers have had success over the whole bunch of years, because they have only had a few bunch of coaches, and everybody has kind of been in lockstep. But these last few years have just been feeling like, can we get away with, like, very, very Bengal-esque, man. Let me say that. Very Bengal-esque. Like, we're here, and let's see how far we can just kind of keep stretching this thing, not paying people, not preparing for the future, just keep putting the Gorilla Glue over that spackle on the house, and let's see what happens. And here we are. And because, again, that defense is old now. It was getting old when Ben Roethlisberger was there. And so, again, you think about some of the players on that defensive line. I just think about some of those that traditional linebacker, that traditional cornerback we used to have for the Steelers. Of course, the defensive lineman, Hayward. I mean, even, we've had Watt, and they kind of lucked up into Watt. I mean, let's they knew he had the pedigree of the name and the brother and the namesake, but, like, you didn't know he was going to be like that. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of that, I think, has just kind of fell into the lap, and that's just kind of, as the coach used to say, when anytime we tried to review a play, the number one thing is, man, let's see if we all living good on this team, and as if that's the telltale of the tape if anybody wins a review on a bad call or something. But it feels like the Steelers have been trying to live off what they have been, and Mike Tomlin and the leadership deal, but like, what are we doing? They did. I mean, you went in there with the Justin Fields experiment. You went in there with the Russell Wilson deal. Hopefully, out of one of those guys, you thought you would have one of them at this time of the year. You don't have any of them. You traded away the wide receiver, and again, the guy was kind of a knucklehead, but maybe we should have did this 2 years ago if we're going to do that now. Now we're talking about trading for Janu Smith. Again, tremendous athlete from the Dolphins. The point is, it feels like it's in all disarray because you can trade for Janu Smith. You can get some more offensive pieces. You can do all that. Who's going to be the dealer? Is it going to be Aaron Rodgers at the end of all this when I flip this card over? Is it going to be Aaron Rodgers? No, that's not the answer. So for me, it feels like at one point when I used to be in the NFC, the black and blue, the AFC blue, black and blue, the North, the Steelers, and then Baltimore kind of like got right there with those guys in the early 2000s as far as like stability, my franchise. We know what we're going to get every year regardless if we have a quarterback, guys up, down. Even if our best player got hurt, we figure out a way to win. Now it feels like the Steelers and everything has been flipped, and like I don't know who's the consistency. It feels like it's the Bengals in this deal, and all of that used to be buoyed with Mike Tomlin, and I don't know where it's at right now. Now it feels like maybe this is just one of those deals where like we just been married together so long, the kids have graduated, so like we can keep the same name, we can keep the same address, but maybe we got to, and that's not how this works, though, in the NFL. This coach got to go, this GM got to go, and it feels like that's the only way this is going to work here now with the Steelers.
Yeah, there's a really good chance it might have run its course, and it's a question they're really going to have to ask themselves, especially if they underachieve this year. But, Langston, a large number of Gamecocks drafted in this year's NFL draft, 5 defensive players. So I'll go ahead and give you the players and the teams that drafted them, and you tell me which one you think has the best fit in terms of how they play and the position that they're going to go into. Nick Emenwari with the Seahawks, TJ Sanders with the Bills, Demetrius Knight with the Bengals, Kyle Kennard with the Chargers, or Tonka Hemingway with the Raiders.
It might, and just kind of knowing what I think your list is appropriate, just flip Nick and TJ. I think TJ probably might be in one of the best situations up there. Forget the weather, but of course playing for the Buffalo Bills and kind of the defense and a lot of things they do, going behind a defensive line that already has some veteran guys on there. The name slips me right now. The kid from Houston, he's about my height, but an all-world defensive tackle, so he's going to have a great experience. Ed Oliver, the play behind a middle linebacker that's playing nose tackle in essence. So TJ, tremendously athletic, but just figuring out how to blend that natural athleticism, blend that natural pass rushing ability with playing in the NFL. Because, again, they'll figure out ways to say, oh, you just David Clowney, you can get up the field really good? Come on. And we're just going to leave this door for you and just have you run it. And that's when the mental side of it is going to come in part for TJ. Obviously has a great coach there out there. I think he's going to be in a good situation. Demetrius Knight, they changed up the defensive staff out there. If you asked me this probably before the season, and they had Coach Amaretto Sauer still on the staff, I don't know if that would have been a great coach and a great scheme for what Demetrius Knight, again, smart kid, he probably would have survived, but I think a little bit more development and putting him in situations is going to be there. And, of course, Nick Emenwari, going out all the way out there to Seattle, but having the benefit of a genius, kind of a whiz kid, and your head coach being a defensive-minded guy, and McDaniel, I think that's going to bode well for him. And just look at what he did with a lot of the pieces that they had out there in Baltimore, some of the pre-draft talk about some of the things that, if the Baltimore Ravens were able to get a chance to get Nick Emenwari and pair him up with Kyle Hamilton, look out. Well, they got the old defensive coordinator in Seattle and one of those pieces out there. So I think, that's going to be a really good situation for them. And they already have some good pieces out there. But, talking Hemingway out there with the Raiders, that's going to be a good deal. I mean, playing for those franchises like that, I always envy. Of course, I always make my little joke, but playing for, like, the Raiders, playing for the Cowboys, playing for, like, the 49ers, these franchises are like they're gold. Like, when you can go to places like that who have been around, just really take a lot of pride. Like, even if you've been there for 1 year or 2 seasons, I'd even put the Washington Football Club in there like that. They're really very similar to that too. Past management aside. It's a great situation to be in long term. Now, again, I don't know if they're going to win no football games, but they'll be talking about Tonka Hemingway, and he sounds like a Raider. But tremendous, kudos to Coach Beamers and the rest of those guys. But, I always say this is my time where I get to be the old guy. It's like, it's not where you got drafted at now. now. It's where you're going to be at 3 years from now. It's about how many times can I get these contracts, especially now in this day and age in football.
Well, and with what the Raiders are doing and who they just hired, and what Harbaugh is doing, I mean, I know my team made it, but I'm telling you, I think the AFC West is the best division in football. At least
Getting
it has the
Genty,
potential
too.
to be.
Genty and Brock Bowers, man. That's a young offensive core you got there.
I mean, that's pretty scary. Lots more to do with Langston. We'll touch on his thoughts on how the Gamecocks are being looked at across the country as we head into the 2025 campaign. And I think Elijah may flip the script a little bit today with Langston on the program. And we'll explain that in just a few. You're listening to the Friday Postgame Show. Integrated Media has long been Columbia's leader in today's technology for your home. Not just about home theater, so much more. But yes, TVs from Sony and Samsung, surround sound systems, or Sonos wireless speakers, Wi-Fi that works everywhere, security systems installed, plus the ability to integrate, yes, literally, your thermostat, your lights, that security system, and your AV all on one app. Call Integrated Media today, 803-948-8327. Dave or one of the crew will come out to your house, talk with you about your wants and needs. You want to cut the cord? They can help. Ready for a beautiful Samsung frame TV that looks like museum quality art when it's not tuned into your favorite team? They can do that for you too. Or a fantastic outdoor system that lets you enjoy your favorite teams and shows while you also enjoy our beautiful South Carolina weather. Get ahead of the football rush. Now's a great time to call 803-948-8327 and upgrade to the best in home technology with Integrated Media. We're talking some football with our good friend Langston Moore, the former Gamecock and longtime NFLer and regular part of our program. Jay and Elijah with you. Excuse me. Y'all didn't hear that, but I just had to cough.
I like how you excused yourself, even though the microphone was off. No one would have known.
I know. Well, they can see me on the thing. I'm going to cough every now and then, and I may cough into the microphone inadvertently. It's not my intention, but, again, a little under the weather. Feeling good enough to be back after yesterday. I'm doing my best. But I got a hunch by like 5:15.
I'd be hitting the wall.
This might be the Elijah Campbell show.
It very well could be. Yeah. The Elijah Campbell Power Hour.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Brought to you by Pop-Tarts.
But Langston is with us from his home in the Metroplex, and we always appreciate his time. And we'll talk more about what he's been up to in just a second. All right, so let me take you to young Langston Moore's 2001 spring and summer. You guys had come off a good season. You beat Ohio State in the bowl game, and expectations were up. And this was after expectations were really low when you were a young player here in Columbia. I don't even want to really talk about it from a Lou Holtz perspective because I know how he probably treated y'all and discussed things with you. But internally, what kind of recognition is there from a college football roster about what people say about you and how you attempt to live up to that?
And that's interesting you put it on us internally because I think that was the biggest driver. Like, to be honest with you, after, like, the first Outback Bowl and the second one, like, Coach was gone. Lou was out there getting his $50,000 a speech, right. And that's 2,000 prices. Who knows what the prices are today? Double. You know what I'm saying? So the point is we had the system was working. That mom and dad could leave house. I think Chuck was like, come on, let's be honest. There still was this thing called the NCAA, and they used to make us sign this little yellow sheet that said, hey, you sign 30 hours a week. But here's the caveat. You sign it before you even start the week. So who knows how many hours you're going to spend this week. You know what I'm saying? So that's a whole different deal. But the point is, like, we're running ourselves, the internal guys, and it's very interesting. You put it on the 2001 year because, like, coming after that, it was very similar to what was going on. Sheldon Brown and those guys were getting ready to leave. A bunch of draft guys. We still had some quarterback. We had very similar, but Carolina, where they're at right now, is way ahead and way further along in the development of the team and what actually might be there for them, talking about some playoff implications and, what happens once we get into the playoffs. That's a whole different deal. But very similar to where we were at that point to where these guys are now. And I have to imagine that I think – it's the same thing. A lot of guys working out, a lot of guys just maintaining themselves, setting the standard high. And that's where all, like, the doldrums and all the bad stuff and the coaches, why is Coach harping on me? Why is so to A, show you this is why we have to do things a certain way. And then when Coach is not here, this is what we do all the time. This is how we do things here. And it's one of my favorite quotes. People like this do stuff like this. Well, winners in the summertime are figuring out ways, how can we squeeze more time in? How can we get a little bit more sharper? Can we do that? Those folks who not trying to win, a.k.a. losers, are like, man, why we got to work out so much, man? Why can't we just come at 8 instead of 5, man? Because what's the difference? You know what I'm saying? Because it just is. That's just what it counts. And it takes what it takes. And I think it's very interesting that this is, and I didn't think about it till you kind of said it. It's very interesting to, like, where Carolina is in the program. But again, handling success. And these guys have done this the last couple of years. This coaching staff has shown that. And that's not always something that's very easily done because, again, you can have the pieces. You can have, Jay, you're a chef. You can have all the things together, but leave that Wagyu beef in that oven just a little bit too long, Jay. And then you might as well have just got the $2 hamburger steak. What was the point? And
Chuck roast.
All of that matters, and I think that's very, very apropos about where these guys are at. But I also think this team is heads and tails way more ambitious. Like, we were ambitious at the time, and we were looking like, oh, man, they ain't talking about us enough on EA Sports. We're not on the front cover, but we have all of those things right now. Now the real test of the tape is, can we handle expectations, and can we live up to expectations and hopefully exceed a lot of those things because we have all the pieces and all the mindset to do it.
Langston, I like to break down teams like at the beginning of the year when doing a lot of the studying for any college football team and breaking them off into like your knowns and your unknowns. I think our known is that Lenora Sellers is back and he's pretty good. You bring back a lot of the offense. I think we have a good idea of how good the offense can be. The unknown is probably the defensive production that you lost in the draft and from graduation. A lot of contributors you're going to have to replace, but you got a lot of players in the transfer portal. Well, on Bill Connolly's SP Plus projections, he has South Carolina projected as the 15th best defense despite all of that they lost, and that takes into account what they bring in. So I'm asking you, if South Carolina ends up being a top 15 defense in college football by those metrics, they're winning how many games this year?
So the flip side is, what is the offense on the other side? And when I say offense, where are we in respect to scoring, and where are we in respect to turnovers? And so, again, we can leave that to the side, but if we have a top 15 defense, I for sure, especially after all the things that we lost, if we're not one of those teams into that playoff, I mean, I'm not even saying we got to host the game. I don't even know if we're getting into that anymore. But we better be in that playoff, because with a defense like that, I played on a team in 1999, 0-11. We were top 25 in defense, but we just couldn't do anything on offense. Same thing in the NFL. I played on a team that we went 0-16. Defense wasn't, that, but we were upper half. And so there's a lot of hope, and I can't poo-poo at that idea, because a couple seasons ago, especially towards the back end, I thought Clayton White was out of here, man. I thought me personally, I thought Clayton White was out of here. We paying this guy too much. What is it? But he did what all great teachers and all great coaches know. I can change. Who cares what my game plan was when it was July 2024 going into the 2024 season? What they did was they was like, nah, that don't work. Let's try something else. That don't work. Try something else. No, that don't work either. And they eventually landed on kind of a hybrid of like the 3-3-5, mixture in some of the guys, used Nick, propelled him into his senior season. All those things kind of came together. I have to think that same mindset and that ability to change and to adapt, but also taking some of the things that you knew worked, is carryovers, because continuity really does matter when we're talking about coaching staff and development, especially on the defensive side of football and losing things. This is where, like, unlike offense, where, like, oh man, we're replacing one wide receiver with another. Now it's my turn. He's excited. This wide receiver's excited, but when he goes out there, he's trying to do his own thing. Defensive guys, on the other hand, is like, man, I've been waiting for TJ to get up out of here so I can show what I can do. Man, TJ was taking all the rest, and that's the thing about the defensive side of football, and they're able to catch up and make those changes when they lose a whole bunch of players. If they have the coaching staff, the culture, and people are still doing those things the right way, it wouldn't be surprising for me for us to kind of have those deals, and I for sure, Elijah, hope that we are one of those teams in that playoff spot there. Not saying we have to host the game, but if we got top 15 defense, woo, buddy, look out. Let's go.
Langston is with us here. We'll come back on the other side. Again, typically around now, we started it this week, actually. Elijah quizzing me on some previous Gamecock experiences. Well, this time we're going to do it with Langston. Does he know this yet, by the way?
He does not.
Oh, well, he does now.
We've been testing your memory all week. It's time to test Langston.
Let's see what happens on the other side of the break. More with Mr. Moore when the postgame show returns. Welcome back in. Final few minutes of our first hour. Langston Moore is with us here. Y'all don't forget to go to athletesandartists.net. There you find out all about the Just a Chicken series of books that Langston and our good friend and colleague Preston Thorne and the great Kev Roche have written and illustrated. Great for the young readers in your life, especially if they're Gamecock fans, but it's good for anybody. Life lessons in there, no matter who you pull for. Or how you can get Langston and Coach P into a school or other speaking engagement near you. Button Gut Podcast, Fight Podcast, merch, swag. Go ahead and record it. Or just you want to just play it, just go ahead and play the thing. This is from last time.
Just so.
I think this is last swag and the merch. It's fire.
Oh, it's still on the hockey board.
That's the last time Langston was with us. And you can follow Langston on Twitter at Remove the Chains. All right, Mr. Moore, I'm going to turn it over to Elijah. And he's going to explain how this thought exercise works.
So, Langston, what I've been doing to Jay, we've been kind of testing his Gamecock lore memory here. And I would pick a classic Gamecock football win, and I'll give Jay over-unders on what specific players did or did not do in that game to see how well he remembers it, right? Well, I figured today, with you on, we'll pick a game that you played in and see exactly how well you remember the night of September 29th, 2001, when you guys beat Alabama 37-36. So we'll start off.
Okay.
We'll start off with your quarterback.
First of all,
yes.
First of all, this is going to be easy. Let's go.
Okay. He says it's going to be easy. Right. Okay. Well, I mean, Jay, I think our first time went 2 for 3, and then went 1 for 4 the next. Yeah. So we've had some variance. Ironically enough, his 2 for 3 was in a game that happened 11 years prior to the next one.
Yeah, Langston played in that one, too.
He did. Yeah. He did. So, Langston, we'll start you off with your quarterback, Phil Petty. Did he throw for over or under 285.5 passing yards against Alabama?
He threw for over.
He did. Langston, 1 for 1. Yeah, Phil went 19 for 33 for 291 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Phil had a day.
Rest in peace, Phil.
Phil had a day, man.
Yeah.
God, Phil had such a good game.
Phil absolutely had a good game. Now we'll go to a mutual friend here, Ryan Brewer. Did he have over or under 35.5 receiving yards in this game?
Oh, in that game? And that was, let me think, that was... yes, he was over. He was over.
So close. He was just a hair under. He went for 33 receiving yards on 2.
Slacker. He always never earned his scholarship. That guy never earned his scholarship. Next question.
33 receptions on 4 catches. So that is a good for 8.3 yards per reception.
Damn. Okay.
Ryan Brewer's in this one too. But I want to give you 3 names here of guys who caught passes in this game, and you're going to tell me the one who did not score a touchdown.
Let's go.
Ryan Brewer, Matthew Thomas, Brian Scott. One of them did not have a receiving touchdown in this game.
Oh, man. See, I was expecting another name, and this name wasn't on here. Oh, you said receiving touchdown, correct?
Correct.
Oh, and the question is, who didn't?
Yeah, who did not? Because there were three passing touchdowns thrown in this game to different receivers.
And the last person, my last option was?
Your last option was Brian Scott.
Brian Scott didn't catch a touchdown.
Ooh, Brian did, and so did Ryan Brewer. The one of those gentlemen that did not have a receiving touchdown that game was Matthew Thomas.
Matthew Thomas. Well, here's what I was expecting. I thought you were going to get me with the tight end, because everybody knows it was Rodney Trafford that had multiple touchdowns that game, correct?
If I go back and looking at it right now, the receiving touchdowns in that game was Rod Trafford, 1 catch for 7 yards. It was a touchdown.
Yeah, that was so.
And then,
for some reason, I thought he had 2, but I could be wrong. Did Hart Turner score a touchdown that game?
Nope. Brian had the other one, and so did Ryan. So Brian
was built like a tight end, so that's probably why
it counts as a tight end in your mind.
But again, God bless him, because that wide receiver tight end frame worked against Georgia that beautiful Saturday night. The only reason I remember this game so vividly, because one, we beat Alabama at home. because I played like pure trash. I remember that. I remember that game. It felt like everybody played personally because it's all about me at the end of the day. I played like pure trash. I remember at the end of the game, we came back and we won. Sean Smith played phenomenal. He backed me up. Preston played. I think everybody, I felt like, and again, this is poor me. Everybody just be happy that we beat Alabama at home for the first time or whatever. I still, to this day, I have a picture of that score. Everybody exciting. I just got the mean mug on my face because poor old Langston didn't make enough plays and all. But we beat Alabama, so that's the reason why I know that game so much. Yes, I know that one. Yes.
All right, last one. This can get you to 500 here. Derek Watson punt return yards. Did he record over or under 80.5 punt return yards?
Did he? Are we talking about
not punt return, kick return. Just kidding, not punt return, kick return. Yeah, in that game, over under 80.5 kick return yards.
Was it that game or was it the? I'm gonna say over.
Missed it by a yard. He is under 79. Was the kick return yards he recorded in that game?
But he didn't take it to the house, right? He just had a long return, if I remember correctly.
He had one long return. He only had 2 kick returns, but he did take those 2 for a combined 79 yards.
Right. And typical Derek Watson fashion. Who can return kicks? I can, coach, and just take it, bust it out for 90 yards on a play we've never even practiced before. So
he could get it done. Great to have you. We'll catch up again here sooner rather than later. Best to the family, and stay tuned, man, because Coach Beamer's coming on next. See what he has to say, all right?
Oh, absolutely, man. Y'all be good. Appreciate y'all.
That is Langston Moore. Remove the chains on Twitter, athletesandartists.net. Yes, Shane Beamer will join Elijah and me on the other side. SEC spring meeting recap and a whole lot more coming up. Swag and the merch. It's fire. 4 o'clock on this Friday afternoon. Welcome back in. Second hour of the Postgame Show coming at you from the Herndon Chevy Studios in downtown Columbia, along with Coach Elijah Campbell.
29 yards per play.
I'm Jay Phillips.
It's a real thing. That's a fact.
Cale Wilson's hanging out with us here. Thanks to Langston Moore for joining us. NCAA tournament going on baseball-wise. Georgia just hit another home run. They're up early on Binghamton. Florida has been upset by East Carolina over in the Conway Regional. We'll keep you updated on what's going on in baseball in a bit. But as promised, we welcome back onto the program the head football coach at the University of South Carolina. He is Coach Shane Beamer, who'd probably rather still be on the beaches of the Gulf Coast of Florida than on the air with us, but we appreciate his time nonetheless. How are you, sir? How was Destin this year?
Destin was good. Thanks for having me on. That is incorrect. I would much rather be on with you guys because although the meetings are in Destin, there's no time on the beaches at SEC meetings, so barely saw the beach, but I was there.
Yeah, you can see the Gulf, you can see the sand, and like, oh, that's too bad. Maybe next time. Let's jump right into it. I was pleasantly surprised that Brian Kelly came out after y'all's coaches meetings and said, you know, the wish in the room, that was the quote, was to have some kind of Big Ten SEC challenge. And Shane, obviously, we have spoken with you plenty about the kind of schedule that you want your school to have. And we know what the Clemson game is. We know that you have your alma mater coming up this year, plus home and homes with Miami, Chapel Hill, and NC State in the not too distant future. And you have told us in so many words, hey, if everybody's doing it, let's do it. That's what we want. So how refreshing was that perhaps from a competitive standpoint for you? And how close might we be to seeing something like this in terms of beefed up schedules across the conference come to fruition?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I'll be honest with you. I know that was one thing that, you know, a soundbite or a quote, report, whatever that came out of those meetings. We talked about so many different scenarios, Jay, in regards to future scheduling, 8-game conference schedule, 9-game conference schedule, alliance with the Big Ten where you schedule each other. What does the playoff look like? Is it a 12-team playoff? Is it a 14-team playoff? Is it a 16-team playoff? Are there 5 automatic bids with 11 at-larges? Are there 4 guaranteed spots for the SEC, 4 for the Big Ten? I mean, we talked about so many different things. I don't know if we're closer to any of them, but, you know, certainly we understand that in today, we being the head coaches, understand that in today's climate that fans want to see marquee matchups and they want to see attractive non-conference games, and we are certainly doing that. We do that every year, as you alluded to, with Clemson. We're doing that this year with Virginia Tech. We're doing that next year with Miami. We have, I think, North Carolina and NC State on future schedules, and a lot of schools do in the SEC. So we need to continue to do that, and certainly you can't argue with the success that the SEC and the Big Ten has had over the last 5-10 years in college football, and it makes a lot of sense to, you know, play those guys more often. But it wasn't anything that we talked about, you know, specifically that you would say anything is imminent coming out of those meetings.
Shane, one thing I think that gets kind of lost in the discussion about tougher non-conference scheduling, because a lot of the conversation is really centered around, you know, what this does for playoff hopes. But as a football coach like yourself, I know you can probably understand like the value it just has for your team growing throughout the year. I mean, there's a benefit to playing somebody like Virginia Tech for the first game of the season and what that does for you once you get into October and November. So just playoff stuff and resume stuff aside, for you as a coach, what is that benefit of playing a Virginia Tech or a Miami or a North Carolina, NC State, whoever it is, to kick off your season?
Yeah, no, I love that, and fans love that, and I love that. I think it makes the summers. There's even more urgency in the summertime, if you will, when you open up with a non-conference opponent that you're for. Us, for example, this year, the only game on Sunday afternoon on national television is going to be awesome, and it certainly increases the urgency in the summertime, and it's exciting. Competition's a core value of this program, and we want to compete against the best week in, week out, and certainly that's an aspect of it. My dad used to say it all the time. I mean, he had openers during his time at Virginia Tech where they opened up with Reggie Bush and Southern Cal one year up in the Redskins Stadium. They opened up with Boise State one year. You know, Georgia Tech was in a season opener one year. He had a lot of those. Alabama, I think, twice. So he had a lot of those marquee matchups in opening games, and he used to say the same thing, just the excitement that it makes for the summertime as well. So that's one aspect of it. And then certainly with the playoffs, you want to play a challenging schedule. Strength of schedule should be a component of what the committee's looking for. I don't know how much it was last year in the playoff selections, but it should be a major criteria of the selection committee when it comes to what teams get into the playoff. And when you can challenge yourself with a schedule where you play marquee games like that out of conference, it should do nothing but help you if you win them. And if you're not successful, it's a good barometer on where you are as a program and kind of where you stand.
Let me throw something at you that I mentioned to Elijah earlier, speaking of strength of schedule. He and I were talking about the fact that maybe college football could benefit from something similar to what basketball and baseball have, Shane, with the net ranking in basketball or whatever, the RPI component in baseball, but the quad win, especially in basketball, quad 1, quad 2, and it really is a better measure for a committee to look at and see who you played, how you did, and where you did it. Would you guys want something like that in football? Has that kind of thing ever been discussed amongst the coaches?
Yeah, no, it was. It was discussed this week. We were using the example of what you just alluded to. We talked about the NCAA men's basketball tournament this year and how the SEC got so many teams into the tournament. And then what it ended up being, I think 7 of the top 7 of the Sweet 16 was SEC teams, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. They got the bulk of the league in, and they followed specific metrics and quad wins, and the committee got it right. And you look at we use the example of baseball with the number of SEC baseball teams that are in the tournament and the metrics that committee uses. Softball, with I think 7 of the top 8 teams, I think last weekend for super regionals were SEC teams in the softball tournament, and they all use different metrics. So it's absolutely something that we've talked about. It's something that we talked about this week, and we use other sports in this league as examples, without a doubt. So I think there certainly needs to be different metrics, whatever you want to call it, in looking at who the best teams are, and certainly I know the SEC released something, I believe, yesterday, just some criteria, or not criteria, but some facts just in regards to strength of schedule and the success that our teams have had across the country over the last 5 years. And that's something that we went over in those meetings. And Commissioner Sankey said we're going to release this to the media in a couple days, and that's another aspect of it.
I know one frustrating element of this offseason for you and for the running back you brought in, Rasul Faison, is still waiting to hear about the eligibility for next season. I know you guys filed the paperwork back in January and have been patiently doing your part by giving them whatever they need. But have you gotten an update on the status of Rasul going into next year?
No, we have not. It's unfortunate. Every time I hear through the grapevine that we should know something in the next day or two, it never happens. And what's today, Friday? I think Tuesday I heard we should know something in the next couple of days, and here we are Friday, and we've heard nothing. So nothing right now. Our players are back in town working out. I was out watching them today, work out, lift, and run. And, the team always gets together at the end, and they break it down on something, 1-2-3 team or 1-2-3 Gamecocks or whatever it is. And today they broke it down on Free Sewell as well. So they're behind him, and he's here working hard and hoping that, we get some closure on this soon.
Have they given you any indication of what is holding it up? Is it just a mountain of paperwork, or is there something they think they don't know? I'm just curious as to what is causing the delay, and if you've been given any idea of that.
I really haven't. The NCAA reached out. We've given them everything that they've asked for since January. They reached back out about 2 weeks ago, I think, and asked for just a little bit more information on, a couple situations with previous schools that we provided to them. We've reached out to his previous stops and gotten all the information and documentation and statements that we need from them. So we've given the NCAA everything. We haven't gotten a response on or any other feedback on why we don't have a final statement yet, no.
When it comes to Lenora Sellers and the attention that's being paid to him, it obviously is quite warranted. And we know, we've heard from you, we've gotten to talk with Lenora and see what kind of grounded kid he is and what kind of family that he has. But there's still going to be a lot of attention, and certainly that spotlight ramps up here in just a few weeks' time. What are the conversations like with him, with you, with Coach Shula? Not so much to keep him, again, level-headed, Shane, but maybe I ask it like this: How aware is he of such an increased spotlight on him and his game?
Yeah, I think he's very aware, but I mean, I think that goes back to last season and the way the season ended, and you look at. I think I said this in an interview somewhere earlier this spring, but he got into the season and we went on that 6-game winning streak, and you're kind of in a bubble. You have your routine. You're practicing throughout the week, getting ready for a game. You're going to class, and the time off between the Clemson game last year and the bowl game, that was the first time where he was probably out of that routine, meaning he's going to be out in public maybe a little bit more than he was. And I think that was an eye-opener for him, how much his life changed after that, the regular season ending and going into the bowl game. But you're right, he's very level-headed, he's very grounded, he's got a great support group at home with his family, and not much bothers him at all. He certainly doesn't get too high or doesn't get too low, but I'd be crazy, to think that it's not a change for him, because he's still a young guy. I mean, he's going into his 3rd year of college. It's not like he's in his 6th year here. He's very young in so many ways. So we'll continue to support him and help him, but he's the same guy that he's always been, and really, really working hard to improve as a quarterback.
Shane, a fun one here for you. As a lover of the college football video game myself, I've been seeing releases all over the place of the coaches that are going to be appearing. So my 2 questions here: are you going to be appearing in this video game, and did you give EA Sports the information of your trick play coordinator, which may or may not be me, about also appearing in the game?
To answer both your questions, I think I am, Elijah. Back in the fall, like way back in September, I think, I had to sign something for them to be able to use my likeness or whatnot, and I signed it. So I'm going to be disappointed if I'm not, because I thought I was, and that's why I signed that form. And then no, they have not not that I won't, but they have not reached out to me yet. So if they reach out to me for anything using my likeness or anything else, I will make sure that they take a peek at the spring game and what we got done. One of our longest games of the night in that spring game was your play.
Yeah, the tape speaks for itself.
How many yards, Elijah?
29 yards per play. 29. That's a career average.
Yeah. That's going to be his new Twitter handle. It's on his business card already. 29 yards per play. What fun trips do the Beamers have planned for the summer? Are you going anywhere exotic, or is it all about work?
Right now, the summertime and downtime seems like so far off. We just got out of a staff meeting a little bit ago, and we're starting a journey today of 23 straight days of no days off as a coaching staff because of what we do in the month of June, whether it be, trying to develop your own team that's here right now for summer school, and they're already going through workouts, the summer camps that we have, whether it be team camps or individual camps with high school prospects that are coming, or the youth camp that we have in a couple weeks, or recruiting weekends. We have 3 official visit weekends starting today. So here in about 2 hours, we've got 9 guys that'll be coming over to my house, their families and our coaching staff, for dinner and fun tonight here at my house. So we got a busy 23 days coming up, but certainly once that slows down and we get to July, we'll have a little bit of time to catch our breath before the season. Nothing too crazy. Obviously, we live in a great state where you don't have to go far, so there's so many things here in the state of South Carolina, whether it be the beach or getting up closer to the mountains that you can enjoy in the summertime. We are going to take a little trip up to Boston after July 4th. I love history. My son Hunter, he's into history, so we're going to go up there and do a lot of the Revolutionary War stuff, Red Sox game, and let the girls shop and do whatever it is they want to do as well. So that'll be a quick little family trip in July. But other than that, we're kind of taking it easy here in South Carolina.
All right, is Shane Beamer man in the grill tonight at the house? What's the go-to?
No, there'll be no grilling. There'll be catering for here at the house. When you've got, you're talking about nine prospects or 9 recruits that are here, but then you're talking about all the family that they bring with them here on this trip. So you're talking about 9 times, let's say 4. So now you're up to a lot of guests, and then you talk to your coaches and staff and all that. That's a lot of people for one person to be manning the grill on. So there'll be some catering, and there'll be some karaokeing going on later on tonight, I'm sure,
Yes.
as the night goes on. But we'll have a fun time, and always great spending time with the prospects and their families and having fun to kind of kick off the official visit weekend.
All right, do you have a go-to karaoke song that people can go like, man, Shane can sing?
I knew you were going to ask that as soon as I said that. When I have broken out the karaoke, I don't know if any of y'all are into country music, but you can't go wrong with a lot of Sam Hunt's songs when it goes to karaoke. So I'm convinced that the reason Marquis Anderson and I think Blake Franks, I'm trying to think who all was on that official visit weekend. It was a group of guys that we had here a few years ago, and I'm convinced that the reason they became Gamecocks was because of my rendition of Sam Hunt's song "Make You Miss Me." Was really, really good. Really, the star, believe this or not, the star guy that really gets into the karaoke is Torian Gray, our defensive backs coach.
Yeah.
So he'll be the first one to kick it off tonight. And if anybody else gets an opportunity, it will only be because Torian takes a break from singing.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's good. That's good. You got to have a go-to, right? You got to have a go-to. All right. Last question for you, and it's already been alluded to, but about 15 years ago, I had a co-host here on the program who ended up becoming an assistant coach in the National Football League. His name was Deuce Staley. He ended up winning a Super Bowl, and he's become a very good assistant coach. How fearful should I be that my current co-host will ultimately be leaving me for some type of assistant football job, again, based upon the amazing success that he had in the Garnet and Black Spring game?
Well, initially I would say you don't need to be fearful at all, but your record is what it says you are. And right now he is a coach that's averaging, what did you say, 29?
29 yards per play.
A coach that is averaging 29 yards per play, which I don't know of any coach in the country that's averaging that per play right now. And Deuce was a radio host, and Deuce was our sideline guy when I was here as an assistant coach for our radio broadcast of games with Todd and Tommy. And I really didn't think he'd be coaching in the NFL one day, so you never say never. But if any radio host is going to make the jump to coaching, it's going to be the one that averages 29 yards per play call. I would hire that guy. I know that.
There it is.
Hey, I mean, Mike Shula told me before the game, if it works, it's no longer your play, it's our play. So I will be expecting royalties if we see South Carolina line up in a wishbone at any point this season.
Or at least a really cool shirt.
Absolutely.
Yes, I'll take a cool shirt.
Yep, you never know.
Coach, appreciate you. Have fun tonight. We'll talk to you soon. Always a pleasure.
You bet. Thanks, guys, for having me on. Have a great weekend.
All right. That is our good friend Shane Beamer, the head coach of the Gamecocks. Sam Hunt, go-to karaoke. No grilling tonight. You know what, though?
Yeah, did you look behind you?
Honestly,
Have you seen the rain behind you?
I think there's nobody doing grilling tonight. So catering, probably the right call. Lots more to do as the Friday postgame show rolls on. All right, you're home now. The kids are out of school. Maybe time to give a little more space to everybody. If you're looking around the house, love where you live, love your neighborhood, but, things are just not what you really would ideally like them to be in your house. Call Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. Tap into your home's equity with a home equity line of credit and pay lower closing costs and application fees than you will with the big banks. Plus, Palmetto Citizens is only local. They're only here in the Midlands, and they've been here since the 1930s. So they know your neighborhood, they know the values, they know exactly how to help you. And when you unlock your home's equity, you can access that line of credit over a 10-year draw period to assist you with many of your needs and goals. You can apply right now and learn more, palmettocitizens.org, or stop into any of their 14 convenient Midlands locations. Join my wife and me as members. We're very happy with them. Palmetto Citizens. Check them out. All right, welcome back in. Appreciate Shane Beamer's time. Jay and Elijah with you here on what is now a rainy afternoon in downtown Columbia, South Carolina, and from what I understand, other parts of the state. This will be a quick segment. We ran a little bit long there with Shane, so we'll get back on time here shortly. He told us a lot of things in there. I suppose that the no news is bad news thing is the one that's going to stick with a lot of people. I just don't understand the delay in the Rasul Faison case.
No.
Shane saying that they called a few weeks ago and asked for more and got it. Okay. I mean, we've talked about it before, so I know I'm kind of, beating a dead horse here. But you say you want to do right by the kids and for the kids, and you're not.
Even if the answer is a no, having people hang out in limbo like that is terrible for the kids. I mean, it's terrible, or the players, adults, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
Like, it's terrible for all involved because Shane's trying to have a game plan for what next year's going to look like. Mike Shula, as the offensive coordinator, is trying to figure out what he's got at his disposal with the roster. And it might be two different things if Rasul can and cannot play. And them just kind of leaving them out to dry and having them just wait and play the waiting game. It's not like they submitted this paperwork 3 weeks ago or at the last part of the deadline, if there was one. They submitted it in January.
Nor should any additional information they requested hit some type of reset button. Like, hey, we were looking at it, but now with the new stuff, we got to start all over again. Like, no, you know what you know. I don't know. That doesn't.
And it's like you file the paperwork in January to get your answer by spring practice.
Yeah.
You don't get it by spring practice, and you're like, okay, well, I guess we'll figure this out, before the end of the semester. And when you still don't know by the end of the semester, what do you expect anybody else in this scenario to do?
Yeah, I agree, and it will be different. How different? You won't know that in terms of any potential personnel changes until they go play football, but it will be different. I mean, you practice with them in the spring, and you again, I know there might be some out there, and this wouldn't just be people that are looking only at Carolina's situation with Rasul Faison. There may be others who go, well, then you just shouldn't have, you shouldn't have taken this guy. You don't without guidance first.
Yes.
You don't take a leap of faith. It's too important, and the margins are so thin anyway, if you will, that you don't just roll that. You might on someone that you expect to just provide you some good depth. Mm-hmm. You don't do it when it's someone that you anticipate will become your number one tailback.
I had this conversation with a friend of mine who is a college sports coach, and he's on a staff, but he does a lot of the recruiting. And he was kind of telling me a lot of the teams in their league that they play in have been just grabbing guys they know don't even have eligibility because they're like, all right, we'll figure that part out later. Like, there's a lot of that is going on, right? He said, but one thing that they want to do is if they think they can get a yes, they will pursue that player and wait it out. But because the waiting period for some of them, because it varies, they've gotten guys on their campus who have gotten yeses pretty quickly or no's pretty quickly. And when you get that answer pretty quickly, then you know to move on. Then you can tap into the contingency plan, or you can welcome that player onto your roster, and bam, there you go. Your offseason's gotten a little easier because that's one spot filled. But when you apply for something in January, and here we are, Sunday is June. Right. That will have been 6 months.
Right.
How do you sit on an eligibility case for 6 bleeping months after continuous requests, and that those requests have been filled for paperwork, information, everything they've asked for, the school has given? How do you keep sitting on your hands whenever you've gotten all the paperwork you need? Can't you figure this out in the span of
yes, they can.
An hour's meeting?
I would certainly think this shouldn't take again. But like you and I said a few weeks back, 5 weeks, okay.
Yeah,
I know you're. He's not the only one. I get it, and there's a lot of these, but now 5, now 6 months, and I don't ask this, what are they doing? I would almost be like, because Shane mentioned they've reached out to his former schools as well. I would imagine they would like to be supportive here. So I'm sure, whatever they're. I mean, what again? That's the maddening part is what do you need? What kind of wool do you think we're trying to pull over your eyes here?
Right.
I mean, everything is cut and dried. Everything is black and white. Whatever terminology and analogy you want to make, like we're not lying to y'all.
Right.
This is what it is, and here's the precedent for other players that have fallen under the same umbrella. Like, what's the deal? That's what gets me.
And the worst part is we're going to get a yes or no, and we're not going to get an explanation as to why it was yes or why it was no. Right? They won't have to answer for that.
Yeah, no, they rarely do. We'll come back on the other side, more on what the college football playoff format could look like and some of the newest changes that have been made to those discussions. You're listening to the Postgame Show. All right, today's not the good day for it, right? But most days around these parts in the spring and summer, you can be out swimming and enjoying. And maybe you've been to a neighbor's house or you've been somewhere where they've got a nice pool and you're like, you know what? I think I want one of those. I think my kids want one of those. And I think even at a resort, you might say, man, this could really transform my backyard. Call Griffin Pools and Spas and let them help you turn your backyard into that oasis that you've dreamed of for a while or that you've seen somewhere else and say, I want to do that. And now is a fantastic time to go get it done. Call the folks at Griffin. Stop in and see. Hey, listen, I've seen people jump into their model pool. All right, we've done plenty of shows from there. If you already have a pool, they've got all the chemicals and accessories to make things even better for you, plus grills and so much more out there, too. It's a great operation. Just steps away from the Lake Murray Dam in Lexington. Go see Griffin Pools and Spas.
From the Wetzel's Automotive Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell with apparently 0 accident-related traffic backups here in the Midlands, which is very nice considering we have had some terrible weather right now, very wet and rainy. So be careful on your commute, whether back home or through work. But as of right now, you guys have done a fantastic job. Some long-term road construction on 20 and 26 that might cause some traffic backup. But other than that, nothing accident-related.
Well, I was very much in favor of the seating change we made last week. The entire management committee was. It was the right thing for college football. It simplified things for sure, and I'm excited about it. And I think I speak on behalf of my commissioner colleagues, and it was the right thing to do.
That's Brett Yormark, not Bob Bowlesby.
Hey, there we go.
The commissioner of the Big 12 Conference on support for the straight seating that was voted upon last week. Now the attention turns to what the future of the college football playoff looks like beyond 2025. Welcome back in. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell with you. Thanks again to Coach Beamer for joining us. Cale Wilson's hanging out with us here in the studio as well. Get you updated in a little bit on what's going on around the NCAA baseball tournament. Several sites across the South are in a weather delay as we speak. I know they are in Baton Rouge. There's a couple others. I think maybe one out in Texas. I think they even were delayed a little bit up in Clemson. But right now, Kentucky and West Virginia are playing. Florida has been beaten today. A lot of us, myself included, believed that Florida would go to Conway and win that regional, and they still may. It's a double elim tournament after all. But now Florida can't lose again. But they were beaten today by East Carolina 11-6 and needed a home run in the bottom of the ninth, did the Gators, just to make that margin feel a little bit better. Maybe it gives them a little momentum going into whomever they play tomorrow. Fairfield.
More than likely. Hey, some weird stuff has been happening so far in this tournament. There's been some weirdness.
Yeah, I'm here for it, not like in the sense of pulling against anybody.
Right.
But if tomorrow is Florida versus Coastal, loser goes home
elimination game.
And one of them goes 0-2, but I don't see that happening. I think Coastal will win tonight in their game against Fairfield, and
like Foulfield.
You know, and we'll see. But Florida had been playing really good baseball, but they did not today.
You want a college baseball craziness update? Because right now I brought my iPad into the studio so I could have Squeeze Play on, so I can keep tabs on everything going on. Top of the first right now, NC State and Stetson, the Hatters, or the Mad Hatters, the Jacob DeGromless Hatters, up 4-0.
Wow. Bases
are loaded, and there's only one out. So they can really pour it on NC State before we even get to the second inning.
And who is the? I know that's the Auburn regional. Who's Auburn playing? I'll look it up real quick here. I got it.
Auburn is playing not Stetson and not NC State.
Auburn will. Why is it not on here, Elijah? Central Connecticut.
That's right.
Oh, they came down here a couple years.
They did, and then Kentucky took their best pitcher.
Yeah, Carolina should have gotten that kid. We'll keep you updated on that. But anyway, Brett Yormark has also come out now. In fact, let's play cut number 3, and then we'll talk more about this CFP situation. Here's Brett Yormark from Big 12 Media Days. And, again, fairness is sometimes a subjective term, but you listen.
Well, first and foremost, I like 16. More access is better for the Big 12 for sure. But I'm also about fairness, and there's been a lot of conversations out there about AQs, and from where I sit, and I know I speak on behalf of our coaches and our ADs, we want to earn it on the field, and I'm adamant about that. And I think a 5+11 format does that. It's fair. It's what our fans want, and they don't want an invitational. They want a true playoff system. And we have that right now. I thought last year going to a 12-team format was fantastic. It played out exactly how people had hoped. It was very dramatic. It created a lot of interest. Going to 16, I think, does more of that. But I think we need to put these multiple AQs, take it out of the conversation and focus on what's right for college football. And I think 5+11 does that, and that's our preference.
I'm going to say this, and I don't say it to be a smartass. It's still an invitational. If there's a committee that is ultimately deciding who gets in some ways, it's still an invitational. And I realize I'm playing semantics a little bit with that. I like the 5+11 too. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't even mind, as you and I talked about, the Lane Kiffin proposal from the other day at SEC Media Days. Just rank them and let's see what happens. But. And Shane gave us some pretty good insight, by the way. If y'all missed Coach Beamer with us, one of the things I was pleasantly surprised to hear this because I didn't know. Elijah and I had spoken of the need in football for some form of metric like basketball uses with the quad system, quad 1, quad 2. And yes, it can get very convoluted and confusing, but ultimately once you understand it, you realize how much it helps them differentiate in terms of who you beat, where you beat them, and how you beat them.
It paints the full picture, and it fully contextualizes other catch-all metrics. Like, if I can just look, I mean, I can explain to you what strength of record is all day long, and if you have nothing else to kind of provide context as to what got that number, and I just throw, like, math equations at you, you're going to want to beat me up, right? But if I tell you, okay, yes, this is what their ranking is, this is fueled by being 8-0 in quad 1, 2-0 in quad 2, 1-0 in quad 3, and 1-0 in quad 4. Or, like, yes, this team has a 10-2 record, but they are only, 1-1 in quad 1, and they have a quad 3 loss. That 10-2 record doesn't impress you as much, does it? Like that, it gives the full broad context as to what fuels a lot of the catch-all metrics. And it just paints the full picture as to how this team has gotten this ranking and where they are, and it helps you decide and classify what good wins are and what bad losses are, and whether or not they cancel each other out, and what the full picture actually
And there may be some cancellations, but to the point that you and I were making this morning as we talked about today's show, when you look, and Shane referenced it in less detail, about how many schools from the Southeastern Conference got into the men's basketball tournament. And there were a few that had losing conference records, but they might have also had some pretty good non-con games that they played. And there is, I hesitate to use the word reward, but there is an acknowledgement of playing a more difficult schedule and having that be applied to the selection process. And it's not that I look, I don't say this to take swipes at any fan base anywhere, but I don't know that in today's world all schedules are created equal. It'd be great if we could play a round robin schedule. It'd be if we took the Power Four and played a round robin schedule, that'd be awesome. But we can't play 120 something games.
Nope, that'd be a little ridiculous.
Just can't do that.
It'd be silly.
It'd be awesome if we could. I would love that, but we can't. So, how do we find a way? And I think that's it. But and it's not just look, Indiana, we know was a good team last year, and you and I, some of the things we talked about, because some people might have looked at their strength of schedule. They caught a lucky break in some ways in the Big Ten in terms of who they didn't play.
They got a great draw.
They did
with the conference schedule.
With the exception of a couple of wins, they also beat people. They didn't just win the game. They took a hammer to a few of them.
The margin of victory was well over 3 touchdowns.
And so I want to give Indiana the credit they deserve, but at the same time, what would it have looked like if in terms of quads and in terms of strength and I don't know how you can apply it directly to football. But I'd like to see the powers that be come up with something. Obviously, it won't necessarily be in place for the coming season. Although, you might be. I don't know.
That might be my weekend homework assignment. I will come up with a way to be able to classify.
But if not, then certainly for 26 and beyond. But I'm to come back around. I'm like I've said. I'm not here for automatic qualifiers. But I do think one of the reasons that the Big Ten. And honestly, seriously, man, that Tony Petitti isn't taking more slings and arrows.
Because that's his idea.
Yeah.
That's the Big Ten's idea.
On the AQ thing is a little surprising, but, if Greg's going to be the villain for a while, so be it, I suppose, in his mind.
I don't think Greg cares.
Yeah, not anymore. Again, he's making $4 million a year. He's good.
I'd be the villain.
Yeah, right. A lot of people will, man. A lot of people will. Mark Emmert sailed off into retirement, and
he was the biggest villain.
He was pulling some down. But if we want to see, as Shane said, there is an acknowledgement from coaches that fans want more good games. They don't want, I don't want to say meaningless games, but they want games with even more meaning. Is that fair?
Yes.
How's that?
I don't think they want to see Alabama play Mercer.
They don't. And they don't want to see South Carolina play the Citadel, despite what Citadel fans think of me or that.
Yeah, you caught the wrath of
I did. Well, the
Citadel
one guy
fans.
just made it all about Carolina and the Citadel. I'm like, dude, you can't do that. We got hundreds of schools out here. You can't just make it about that. What's next, Jay or nay?
Absolutely.
Ooh, all right, let's do it. Guys, when you're feeling a little bit off, might be time to go check it out instead of ignoring it or being embarrassed about it. And yes, some things can be difficult to discuss, even if it is with a medical professional, but don't be that guy. Instead, when you're not feeling the way you want to, go see Dr. Dan Balknight and his team at the men's clinic and get to the root of the problem. Again, too often guys just put it off or think, you know what, if I give it time, it'll probably go back, to what I want it to be. No, get to feeling better when you see Dan and his team at the men's clinic. They are medical experts in healthcare for men and dedicated to making you feel like yourself again. They'll get a one-on-one consultation with you, get to the root of the issues, find out what's going on in your daily life, and prescribe a treatment just right for you. No magic pills, no one-size-fits-all. They've been doing this for years, and they've got all kinds of fantastic results. So do it for yourself. Do it for your family. Call 803-875-MENS or learn more at themensclinicsc.com. Welcome back in. Postgame show rolling on this Friday. Jay and Elijah with you. Coming up top of the 5 headlines of the day. Got more around what's going on or what happened. I guess they're over now. The SEC meetings are done.
They are now the SEC met.
That's right.
Because meetings
and we'll have
they're going on right now.
Have a little revisit of some of the things that Coach Beamer had to say to us coming up as well. In the meantime, it's game show music time. Whatever happens next is inconsequential because we get to listen to game show music.
And I picked Who Wants to Be a Millionaire because the last one here, I feel like this music is.
Oh, this is the intense, like, nervousness music.
This is. You might have to phone a friend.
Uh-oh.
Jay or nay, Florida isn't making it out of Conway alive.
Well, it certainly got a lot harder today. But since,
say that again.
I mean, I picked them. I picked them to win, and they can still win.
They still can.
So for now, what was the question again? How do I answer
the
it?
statement is Florida ain't making it out of Conway alive.
Not nay. I think they still win this regional.
Sticking to your guns.
I think
I gave you a chance to back out of this.
But it's going to be tough.
He elects not to take it.
It's going to be tough. Well, this one doesn't count against me.
Here's an outside the box one.
Oh, okay.
With 19 home runs and 37 RBI and an OPS of 974, Mariners catcher Cal Raleigh has a chance to challenge Aaron Judge for American League MVP this year.
Yeah, Jay. Yeah, I absolutely does. The problem is going to be that he plays in Seattle and he plays late at night most of the time, and most of the voters live in the Eastern time zone and don't even remember that Seattle has a baseball team.
That's the only hurdle.
So
he's the first person this many home runs before June since some fella named Ken Griffey Jr. for the Mariners franchise.
He was good.
He was pretty good.
He was real
Hall
good.
of Famer.
Yeah, he was great, man. I like it. I like it. He'll get some votes, but it's already Judge's to lose. He would have to go lose it.
J or nay, PSG will finally win a Champions League final.
So this one's tough. I think they're going to. I am currently wearing an Inter Milan jersey. Inter is a distant sort of, I don't want to say second favorite team, but I like to. I've had this jersey a long time, and I like what Inter's about as a franchise. But I love Luis Enrique, the head coach of Paris. I like their team. I thought Arsenal played them as well as they could in the semifinal, and Paris is just better, man. They're just better.
Good team.
And the way Inter played against Barcelona was amazing. In a one-off, I don't know. So I think finally, after 20 years of really being at a higher level because of their ownership group, yeah, I think it's Paris tomorrow.
Last one. J or nay, Faison Zaki spelled the word éclatement to win the Scripps National Spelling Bee. Jay Phillips can spell this.
I saw it earlier, and the answer is nay.
Well, your chance to prove yourself wrong is now.
Yeah.
Éclatement.
Yeah, I'm not going to try.
Kelly, want to give that a shot?
E-N-C-L.
What was the first two letters?
E-N?
Nope.
All right. It sounded French, so I figured
It is
E-N.
French. Éclatement. E-C-L-A-I-R-E or I-C-I-S-S-E-M-E-N-T.
Way to go, kid.
Well, I have it written down. I cheated.
No, I don't mean you. I mean the kid.
Okay. Yes, that kid. Yes.
Because spelling bees.
He didn't even ask for the language.
No,
of
I
origin.
saw that. I saw the
He didn't
clip.
ask a single question.
He just knew.
Killed it.
That was one of his study words. And
Éclatement.
He got it. Well done. All right, hour 3 coming up. No spelling.
From the Wetzel's Automotive Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell with 0 accident-related traffic backups on the roadways this afternoon. Impressive considering we have not had the greatest of weather today, so let's keep that up. But there are still some long-term road construction projects that might hinder your trip back home or to work, like on I-20 between exit 64 and 65, 26 between exit 108A and exit 125, and I-126 between QG and I-26. But other than that, nothing accident-related so far.
It is 5 o'clock news time on this Friday. Welcome back in. Final hour of the Postgame Show as well. Alongside Elijah Campbell, I'm Jay Phillips. Appreciate you being with us. Start with some Gamecock football news. We found out, obviously, a few weeks ago that South Carolina and Virginia Tech will start on the 31st at 3 o'clock over in Atlanta. We now know the next 2 games and the first 2 home games of the year will be night games at Williams-Brice, which will make a lot of folks happy. On September 6th, the SC State Bulldogs will come up the road. That's a 7 o'clock kick. And the following week, Vanderbilt will be here to open conference play. That game will be either 7 or 7:45. So a respite from the heat because I think last year the ODU game was that at 4?
Yeah, that was a 4 o'clock start because it was
like
daytime. It was overcast in the first half,
helped.
and
Yeah,
it was
helped.
night after that.
That helped a little bit. But so there you go. We will find out the remainder of the times with a few flex options, I think, thrown in about a month, give or take. I forget exactly. It's
option.
sometime before media days, we should have the bulk of the kick times. But
Yes.
Gamecock fans want more night games.
I want more
They're
night
getting
games. They're fantastic. Night games at Willie B are the best
Especially in September for a lot of reasons.
because it's not going to be 100 degrees.
Yeah. Well, it's still going to be 100 degrees, but at least the sun's not baking you at the same time.
Yes, less sunscreen involved for those games.
It's still really hot.
It's going to be hot when you tailgate.
It's still really hot, but it's not as bad. Although, yeah, that's the only downside. Tailgate, just, like Mike Yuba says, mix in the water.
Mix in the water and some sunscreen, but not in the water. Don't drink it. The sunscreen works better when you apply it onto your skin, not when you consume it. And I may or may not be speaking from experience.
Well, that's what
I'm going to let the listener
there you
decide.
go. That's what we should come up with as a society. A digestible sunscreen.
Sunscreen chews.
Yeah. Right?
I mean, we would make a lot of money if we were able to pull that off. I didn't pay enough attention in biology and chemistry.
I know I
in school
did. Biology was all right. Chemistry? Ooh, brother.
Steve Young was my teacher in biology. No,
What?
not that Steve Young.
What?
It's a man named Steve Young. Shout out, Mr. Young. Great teacher. But he was not the Hall of
From
Fame
now
left-handed quarterback.
Yeah,
for the
from now on, I'm just
49ers.
going to believe that you got taught chemistry by Steve Young, like after his retirement. That's what he did. He went into teaching.
He went into teaching. He moved to Cookeville, Tennessee.
Small
Became
town
a
Tennessee.
Biology teacher.
That'd have been pretty cool.
That would have been awesome.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry you didn't.
Class
get that.
was already fun,
Sure.
but it would have been more fun if it was that.
I had a great teacher, Ed Maggart, great chemistry teacher, but chemistry and me, no chemistry.
No, terrible at
See what I did there?
it.
Kale, did you like that one? That was funny, wasn't it? Kale's not paying attention.
He is, yeah, he is. But maybe the joke was so bad he was trying to not. He was going to refuse to acknowledge
But the
it.
Gamecocks, again, SC State kicks 7 p.m. On September 6th. Vandy 7 or 7:45. So why can't they just tell us one?
That's what I want to know. What's the difference?
45 minutes.
Well,
And by the way, thank you, Nick. By the way, that Vandy game will be on Big ESPN. we're told.
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So you get a Lenora Sellers Diego Pavia matchup early.
Ooh, that's juicy.
It is.
That's very juicy.
It is.
That was a good quarterback matchup last one they played, except the South Carolina Gamecocks had Diego Pavia in hell for 4 quarters.
They did. And the play he made, man, was all him.
They
Their
scored
only
7 points in that game, and buddy, they earned every single one.
And
of
it was
those
all him,
points.
man. That was all him. I was very impressed because Carolina's defense was lights out that night, man.
I bet he saw Kyle Kennard in his nightmares for weeks.
Yeah. But he did. He earned his score that day.
He did. My God, and the bruises on his body.
Speaking of Gamecock football, I don't have sound here for you. Elijah's working on that. But Coach Beamer joined Elijah and me about an hour ago, and he did say when we asked him that the football program has still not received word from the NCAA on the status next season for Rasul Faison to transfer from Utah State. Shane did add some new information saying that the NCAA, whomever is looking into this, whatever office, did request some more information a few weeks ago because he had mentioned that they had asked for some things back in January and they've been given them all. And Shane alluded to the fact that his other schools had, at least in some way, potentially been contacted and they've provided information. The frustration is certainly the length of time that this seems to be taking. Again, an entire college semester went by without a ruling. And, again, we talked about it, not even an hour ago, Elijah, when you and I kind of summed up what Shane had to say. But does the NCAA think somebody's lying? That's the only thing I can think of that makes them think we got to keep looking at this. But it's all, like I said, cut and dried, black and white. What more do they want? And they don't. And like you said, you made a great point. And you're right about this. They never tell you.
Nope. They'll give you a yes or no, and that's the extent.
Yeah, they
there
never
is no
tell
explanation tagged to it.
And as if they don't need to. That's part of why people don't like them is because they are so bad at so much of their communication.
They give you the yes or no. I always used to hate when I'd ask a parent for something, and I got a yes or no answer, and I'd ask why, and the answer would be because I said so.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, well, I know you said so. I know you did, but I'd like to know why.
Yeah, and so it is very frustrating, but it's getting to a point where, again, and like you said, too, just if it's no, then say no.
Yeah, and say why he is not eligible.
Because what if there's a no and they want to appeal it to some other entity within the building in Indy or wherever?
And here's the thing, if you say why it is a no, then you are setting parameters for why it is a no. Because if it's a no for Rasul Faison, but it's yes for Brax Gillette, former Johns Hopkins legend in lacrosse that we made up, turned Colorado Rocky.
It's a good name, though.
Brax Gillette. Yeah, but if it was a yes for Brax Gillette, what's the difference between the two cases? Why was one a no and one a yes?
Yeah, and they don't tell us that either. Again, and we've seen them not use precedent.
Yes.
They go, well, we don't use precedent because it's case by case. Stop it.
Get out of here. What's the difference in the cases? We would like to know. Everybody would like to know. All parties would like to know.
Just tell people.
That way, someone in the future, if they want to appeal, let's just say, for instance, Rasul's is a yes. If they know why it's a yes and their case is very similar to his, then before you even submit any paperwork that it's probably going to go through.
Yeah.
Or if it's a no, and there are similarities, and
don't
you
waste
just
your time.
know not to waste your time.
Yeah, don't waste your time. And that's one of the things you and I were talking about with this particular case, is that when South Carolina was exploring him transferring in, you do enough advanced work to figure out if this is the right thing to do, and there's a question. So you got guidance from somewhere, whether it's precedent of a couple of players like Diego Pavia.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the kid at Rutgers, and there's other cases.
Tony Soprano, yeah.
To say that, all right, this is worth the risk, but now it's just getting to a point of and like I say, what do they think is happening? You get his transcripts, whatever, where he was, You know there was a COVID year. You know you've given others that were in JUCO ranks that year back.
You know what your eligibility rules are.
I don't, like, what do you think is happening here? What, Mr. Faison, did you play another, you're not Ashton Jeanty, are you? Like, what are we doing here?
They need, like, DNA samples or
like,
whatever
what are we doing?
to prove he is who he is.
Your
like,
23andMe says that you're not you. Like,
would this work better if Shane just sent an envelope up to the NCAA office with a $10 bill and in green crayon a paper that reads, "I am eligible"? Carlos did that in the bench warmers, and it worked great. Convinced that umpire that he was 12.
It's true. We'll see.
He was drinking beer on the mound.
Yeah. Well, no word yet on Rasul Faison, but here's hoping. Baseball tonight, the Atlanta Braves back home after a difficult trip to Philadelphia where they dropped 2 of 3, and even more difficult when A.J. Smith-Shawver, say that 3 times fast, walked off the mound yesterday in Game 1 after saying he felt a pop. And in postgame, manager Brian Snitker saying it does not look good. They went ahead and put A.J. straight on a plane on his own to Atlanta before the team left because they had a doubleheader last night. He is being evaluated today. I've not seen anything further on what this could be. You hope, but they immediately placed him on the 15-day IL. So no matter what, even if it's maybe just something, every once in a while, sometimes you've done something in life and you feel that little pop yourself. You're like, oh, that hurt, but it goes away with a pitcher.
Especially when that velocity goes down.
Went down 5 miles an hour just from like one pitch to the next.
Yeah, that's a
something hurt.
Sizable difference.
Something hurt. Braves did win Game 2 last night. In the process, Chris Sale became the fastest ever Major League pitcher to 2,500 strikeouts. Needed 81 fewer innings than Randy Johnson to get to that number. And Sale has, admittedly, through his career, said, I mirror a lot of what he does in terms of who I am, as big, tall, flame-throwing lefties that strike you out a lot. So congratulations to Chris Sale. And the Braves did win that one, but Atlanta still 3 games under 500 after a rough road trip. The Sox aren't much better. Of course, Atlanta took 2 of 3 a couple weeks ago in Boston. These games this weekend in Atlanta. Lucas Giolito goes for the Sox tonight for the Sox. He is 1-1 with a 5.27. Grant Holmes and his hair and mustache.
Yes.
As I like to say, he goes for the Braves. He is 3-3 with a 3.68. Speaking of baseball, the college NCAA baseball tournament is underway. Florida is the first major casualty of the tournament. Now, they're not done. It's a double elimination tournament, of course. But Florida was beaten today in the Conway Regional by East Carolina. Final score 11-6. NC State could be headed to some type of casualty. They are down to the Stetson Hatters after 2, 7-0. Kentucky and West Virginia currently tied at 3 up in the Clemson Regional. FSU and Bethune-Cookman in the Tallahassee Regional delayed, but Bethune-Cookman 2-2.
The Fighting Rashawn Mathis
2-2.
Aren't playing around.
Georgia is all over Binghamton, 8-2 in the 4th. Miami leads Alabama down in the Hattiesburg Regional, 5-3. UCLA is up on Fresno, 6-1. They're hosting a regional, are the Bruins. And Arizona leads Cal Poly 3-0 right now. Later on tonight, Tennessee takes on Miami of Ohio. Coastal will host Fairfield, amongst many others. Auburn has Central Connecticut. Clemson will be taking on Upstate. And that's just a little sampling of what's going on. But again, Florida, I picked them to win that regional.
East
and
Carolina,
I guess I just picked them again.
You doubled
asked
down.
Me. I did. Well, I mean, they still can.
They can.
I still know they're playing well, but this was not expected. Although maybe look, EC. We talked about this is why we thought this was the hardest regional in the tournament
because
East Carolina's really good, man.
Even on a down year,
they're
by their standards.
That's a good team, a veteran coach. Get some motivated. Look, Coastal's hosting for a reason too, for a reason too, but that's a tough one, man. The Hattiesburg one and the Corvallis one also. Those are tough regionals. But ECU, I can't say I'm shocked.
I think the biggest blow for Florida is the fact that you already used a start from Liam Peterson.
Yeah,
and that's a guy, he got rocked. Yeah. And that's a guy they've relied on heavily in that back half of the SEC schedule, where they were so good. Like, his numbers got significantly better, and he got better as the season went along.
Do we, I I suppose we do. I'm doing this live on the radio. I'm going to see if I can find out how many pitches he threw today.
I want to guess more than one. I think he threw plural.
Yeah, no, I don't have the number of. Yeah, he threw 40. He only threw 48 pitches, Elijah.
So you're
could
saying
maybe see him on
back.
Sunday?
I think so, especially
At least out of the pen.
Especially, we know what the weather's supposed to be like in this part of the country.
Yeah,
so if we have a day of no baseball and we have to push everything back a few days, that would bode well for his availability.
I mean, look, starters have their habits, and Sully's a pitching coach at heart, but only 48 pitches. There could be a possibility. We shall see. And tomorrow, Champions League final, 3 o'clock in Munich. It's PSG versus Inter. PSG, the slight favorite in this one at plus 115 to Inter's plus 235. More than 400 million expected to watch. I think Paris will get their first Champions League title. That's our integrated media headlines of the day. More on the Gamecocks coming up. A couple of weeks ago, we had the air conditioning system in the upstairs of our house go out. That's where my kids sleep, and they weren't comfortable. So what did I do? Called 803-677-1500, checked in with Roy Finley and the crew at AAA Heating and Air, and 2 days later, everything was brand new up there. My kids are happy. That means I'm happy, and Mrs. Phillips is happy. And just like any of you, Roy and the crew treated us with the utmost professionalism, and we get that 15-year parts and labor guarantee and all the other trimmings and trappings that come with a brand new system from AAA. If you hadn't had your system looked at in a while, 803-677-1500, get it inspected. Make sure you're going to be nice and cool because it gets hot around here. I don't have to tell you all that. I'm just reminding you that it will. And if it's time for something new, again, 15-year parts and labor guarantee, $1,500 rebate, guaranteed financing, and so much more. 803-677-1500 for all your HVAC needs. It's AAA Heating and Air. 20 minutes after 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. Welcome back in. Jay and Elijah with you. Cale Wilson's hanging out with us here in studio as well. We spoke to Shane Beamer earlier. Elijah pulling a little bit of that for us here in just a second. Before we do anything else, Rod Stewart will be in Charlotte. The great Rod Stewart. He's like a Hall of Famer, right? Look that up. Well, not you. You're busy. Cale, look that up for me, will you? Rod Stewart.
He's a Hall of Famer?
He's got to
say he is.
Yeah,
Cale's on. We got the crack staff back here.
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Anyway, the great Rod Stewart will be in Charlotte on July 29th at PNC Pavilion. I've been to a lot of shows there. If you would like to go, we don't have just one or two or even 3 pairs of tickets. We have 5. This is a text-to-win contest. So you need to be the first 5 to text Rod Stewart. You got to text that, your name and your email address to 803-404-6100. The first 5 of you that Elijah gets that text the name, Rod Stewart, those are words, and your name, and don't get confused and put Rod Stewart twice because your name probably isn't Rod Stewart. But if it is, that's cool.
If it is, I might just give you all 5 of the pairs of tickets.
But the first 5 of you that we get, and they get time-stamped so we can see it, text Rod Stewart, your name, your email, to 803-404-6100, and you will be going to see Rod Stewart himself in person, July 29 at PNC Pavilion in Charlotte. And if you don't win, you can still get tickets from them. It's a fun place, man.
I've been told it's awesome.
I've been to it.
I have not been to a show there.
I've been to quite a few. And I remember going to some of them. I'll just leave it at that.
That you remembered going at all.
Yeah, it's fun. It's good times. Good times. All right, where do we want to start with this? Want to do the playoff one or the scheduling one? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, let's do that. Well, the initial, I guess, overall thoughts that Coach Beamer had on the spring meetings.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I'll be honest with you. I know that was one thing that, soundbite or quote, report, whatever that came out of those meetings. We talked about so many different scenarios, Jay, in regards to future scheduling, 8-game conference schedule, 9-game conference schedule, alliance with the Big Ten where you schedule each other. What does the playoff look like? Is it a 12-team playoff? Is it a 14-team playoff? Is it a 16-team playoff? Are there 5 automatic bids with 11 at-larges? Are there 4 guaranteed spots for the SEC, 4 for the Big Ten? I mean, we talked about so many different things. I don't know if we're closer to any of them, but, certainly we understand that we being the head coaches understand that in today's climate that fans want to see marquee matchups and they want to see attractive non-conference games, and we are certainly doing that. We do that every year, as you alluded to, with Clemson. We're doing that this year with Virginia Tech. We're doing that next year with Miami. We have, I think, North Carolina and NC State on future schedules, and a lot of schools do in the SEC. So we need to continue to do that, and certainly you can't argue with the success that the SEC and the Big Ten has had over the last 5-10 years in college football, and it makes a lot of sense to play those guys more often. But it wasn't anything that we talked about specifically that you would say anything is imminent coming out of those meetings.
Yeah, I wish it were. I get that it's not, but I'm glad, Elijah, that because and I don't know, you and I joked the other day, and again, this is all a joke, so anything I'm getting ready to say did not actually happen. So please, please, please hear me that this did not actually happen. But Elijah and I joked that it would be like a 15-1 vote on toughening up the schedules of the SEC, and that Mark Stoops would have voted no. But that didn't actually happen.
We could have guessed that one
There was no vote. But again, you had Kentucky come out, both Mitch Barnhart, their longtime AD, who's very good at his job, and Mark Stoops, say, well, hey, if we go to a 9th conference game, or we toughen these schedules up, we might not play Louisville anymore.
It'd be hard to do, hard to play Louisville.
And I just thought, why? Why would it?
Why is Lamar Jackson still there?
And right, yeah, that's the only reason, right? Either him or Johnny Unitas. I don't think either one of them play for Louisville anymore.
Rick Pitino ain't coaching.
No, he's not. So, you know, how close are we to this? And one of the articles I read this week, and forgive me now because there were so many that were put out that I can't remember who put it in, that maybe, I think it was one of Heather Dinnich's pieces, though, that said maybe the commissioners are not as in favor of a Big Ten SEC type challenge as some of the coaches are or fans are, which was a little bit surprising because I would have thought, Elijah, that it might have been something from, say, the top down because, look, this serves multiple purposes, but getting more marquee matchups on television is good for your TV revenue. You can sell those tickets for more than you can sell tickets, for a non-marquee matchup, if you will, and on and on. So there are a lot of benefits to doing something like this, and fans do want it, at least by and large. They do. They do. And I think over time, television ratings and attendance numbers prove that while, yeah, your team is going to win the majority of the gimme games, the cupcake games, it's still not. It's not as fun. It's not. It's just. It's not as challenging. It's not as rewarding.
We're here for fun.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, that's what this is. And you made a point the other day that I thought was funny. We won't say any school names now, so as not to hurt the feelings of a few around these parts. But guys come to play games against big schools. They don't come to play them against small schools.
I haven't heard a player say that yet.
So there's that. I don't know what this is going to look like moving forward. And for Carolina, I've heard from some Carolina fans, like, why would we want that? It's hard enough as it is. I understand that. And we've talked about it before. It's supposed to be hard, but I just think. And look, I'm 54 years old, so I fit more of the mold of the kind of person I'm going to talk about. I know how it's always been. I don't want it. That's all. Sure, in an era where just getting to a bowl game is all people cared about. Sure, you wanted a couple of gimmies. All right. I understand that, but the world has changed, and I think the way Shane is recruiting, if you want to be specific to South Carolina, I think you should be encouraged by what it is that he wants the program to be, that he saw what it could be under Steve Spurrier, or what he grew up with when he played for his dad, and Virginia Tech rose to a point of playing for a national championship. Like, you can do it. Often, annually, no. And, again, I don't mean this in a bad way. Carolina, I've said, Carolina's not – it's never going to be Georgia. It's just – there's nothing you can do about that. But you also saw a period in the not-too-distant past where you could go toe-to-toe with Georgia. And there's every reason to believe that you can have that in you on an often enough basis to feel good about playing more quality games. Like, even in some of the years, Elijah, where Carolina has NC State and North Carolina scheduled, I believe in some of those years they've got Appalachian State and East Carolina on the schedule too. Like, that's good. It's not necessarily a Big Ten school or a Big 12 school,
but it presents a challenge.
But it's a good game,
yeah.
and I like that. And look, I've heard from somebody say, well, Jay, what do you want Carolina to go play Ohio State or Penn State? No, and you know what? I don't think they want to play South Carolina. But do I want to see South Carolina play Kansas State or Oklahoma State or Baylor? Yeah, I do. It's a good game. What's wrong with that? And North Carolina and Clemson. Don't be afraid of it. Embrace the challenge. I think that's what major college football should be. It should be major college football every week. And I think everybody would ultimately be happy. Yes, you're going to get beat sometimes. It's sports. But it's a lot more fun than beating a glorified high school team by 70.
That's not fun for anybody.
That's not fun for anybody. Drive around the SEC is next.
From the Wetzel's Automotive Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell with thankfully no accidents to report to you. They're causing some issues on the roadways this afternoon. Despite the weather, done a good job of keeping the roads clear as much as possible. We still have some long-term road construction on 20, I-26, and I-126. That's been going on for a while, and it may cause you some issues on your commute. But for now, no traffic backups as a result of accidents so far.
Welcome back in. Postgame show rolling on. Y'all couldn't see it or hear it, but Elijah and I have the ability to talk with one another without y'all hearing it on the air.
It's like magic.
And I just started telling Elijah what I wanted to do for this segment right as he was starting his traffic, and I felt badly about that.
Now, one day we're going to have the ability to clone me to where I can do that and be able to strategize.
Well, at that point, then you can also continue to call plays at a 29-yard per play average.
I could. Maybe two of me.
Yeah. I did ask Shane that earlier today. I asked Shane if he thought that Deuce would lead the way for Elijah as well. Deuce, again, worked with me for nearly 3 years and then decided that he wanted to be a coach in the National Football League. I still don't get it, but whatever.
Whatever. You want to go win a Super Bowl? Fine.
Whatever.
Fine.
And now that Elijah is technically an assistant coach, would he be the same? And Shane said, "Hey, I didn't know that Deuce was going to go do that." He said he was on with you, and he was our sideline guy. And next thing you know, 15 years later. So I mean,
he was skeptical about the play.
I'll give you another year with me. That'll be 3, and then so let's say 2041, we'll be talking to somebody and hey, 15 years later, there's Elijah. He's got a Super Bowl ring.
He called a trick play out of the wishbone to win a Super Bowl, and the rest was history. He gained 29 yards per play for an entire career. That team scored 200 points a game.
It is our drive around the SEC time now, and again, not good news for the Florida Gators. They lost today to East Carolina, 11-6, the final in the Conway Regional. So the Gators already in the losers bracket. Other SEC teams playing as we speak. Kentucky and West Virginia are tied at 3 in the top of the ninth. Kentucky is the 3 seed to the Mountaineers 2. So 3-3, top 9. That's the Clemson Regional. Arkansas leads North Dakota State 6-2. That one is going to the ninth. Alabama trails Miami in the Hattiesburg Regional 5-3. Top 6, Alabama's the home team. Georgia all over Binghamton, 12-2, so nearing run rule time, but got to get to the 7th to do that.
Fighting Tony Kornheisers.
That's right. Let's see, who else? LSU will host Little Rock later, but I believe the Baton Rouge Regional is in a weather delay. Tennessee will host Miami of Ohio.
Ben Roethlisberger ain't walking through that door.
Auburn, and that's at 6. Auburn will host Central Connecticut at 7. Oklahoma is in the Chapel Hill Regional. The Heels already won today. Oklahoma will take on Nebraska at 7:30. Mississippi State and Northeastern in the Tallahassee Regional at 7:30. State is the 3 seed. And I think that's it. Oh, no. Mississippi has Murray State in Oxford tonight at 8. Texas has already won as well. They beat Houston Christian by a final of 7-1. There was another pretty big upset away from the SEC today. I say big, not too big maybe, but Cincinnati beat Wake Forest today 11-6.
That starting pitcher for Wake Forest, their ace pitcher, walked 5 in 2 innings.
So Wake's ace and Florida's ace both didn't do well today. Both teams end up losing by the same score of 11-6. So there you go. All right, so SEC meetings have concluded. A couple of things here. Let's just go in order of the ones that we have. First off, if you didn't hear, the SEC has changed the court and field storming fines. No more scale from 100 to 250 to 500. Now it's a flat $500,000. Here's Greg Sankey.
We altered the access to competition area policy to establish a flat fee of $500,000 for each violation rather than an escalating per incident amount. You may recall in basketball last year, we also had flexibility if the visiting team could exit the court and the officials, and then the celebration began. We did not impose fines if there was a clean court while that exit took place. Part of the change gives me the authority, if you have those non-incursion moments while the visiting team is present and the officials are present, if it doesn't happen but happens later, that we wouldn't be imposing a fine.
Telling you, maybe 500, I wouldn't say add a zero, but, make it $1 million, make it 2.5, and schools will wise up real quick.
Well, when you say schools are wising up, what does that entail?
Tasers. Snipers. I don't know. No, I don't know if they can, man.
You going to invest in like a couple thousand tasers?
I don't know if you can. And again, what should be some form of deterrent? Like, for instance, the Tennessee-Alabama one is funny, if only because now the money goes to the loser. It doesn't go to the conference. It used to go to the conference, and it would just be like part of the conference's scholarship fund or something, or some type of charitable thing. Which, by the way, I like that. Like, that's what happens in.
That's more beneficial to society.
To society,
instead of being like, oh, poor Kentucky basketball, you lost, and their fans ran on the floor.
Yeah, like if an NFL player gets fined for whatever misdeed, that money goes to NFL charities.
So something, societally benefiting.
Now instead, and I suppose that's supposed to be some form of deterrent.
Oh, poor Alabama! Someone stormed the field against you.
Yeah, but
Here's
Tennessee,
$500,000.
Right? But you tell me, you grew up in Tennessee. I know you're not a Tennessee fan per se, but you grew up in Tennessee. But like, would that be a deterrent for a Vol fan? Like, I don't want to run on the field. We're going to give Alabama $500,000.
No, because you're running on the field and you're flipping them off and say, take this money and shove it.
I suppose so, too.
Yeah, that's the thought process.
I suppose. But anyway, now, no matter what, it's just always going to be $500,000.
They're going to be like, use that $500,000 to pay for another receiver to drop a pass near the end zone. Buddy, we'll do it again.
Also, this one's a quick hit here from Greg Sankey. Just a couple of the, stuff to tie up some loose ends. You might remember Carolina and Texas had to flip a coin to see who the 1 seed was.
Totally not silly at all.
In the basketball tournament. Now what, Greg?
We also approved a revision to tiebreakers in the sport of basketball. I don't have those at my ready, and I think there was some editing done that will reduce and hopefully completely eliminate the need for me to stand in front of a camera and flip a coin ever again during my career as a conference commissioner.
We hope so, too. Again, Elijah and I came up with a couple of things, but we just said aggregate scoring. You played 3 times.
Easy enough.
Just add up the numbers, right? And go from there. You mentioned like your high school league. Like, all right, if you played twice, who won the second game? Like, as long as everybody knows going in what it is, then it's more fair. Again, is a coin flip unfair? No, it's just unsporting. It's not unfair, but Look, I'm all about, and look, maybe it's because I'm such a big European soccer fan, and so many of their tournaments are based on aggregate scoring. And I've just become accustomed to that over the 25 years that I've been watching, like, Champions League and things like that.
Well, it makes the second matchup more intriguing once you get to the point where, let's say, the first game, one team wins by 20, and then the other team's up by 21. You're not pulling your starters because you got to ensure that you win that aggregate score.
You need the aggregate.
There's more strategy that gets thrown into things.
So, yes, whatever it is, again, make it sporting. If you played and you have context and fact to go on, then use it. Finally, here's the commissioner explaining the strength of schedule information that was doled out and discussed at the SEC meetings.
I thought about providing this Monday, and I thought, well, we haven't had any conversation with our members I owe them, because some of you asked me, what are you going to say to your colleagues? I owe them the information. And so I'm speaking as the Southeastern Conference Commissioner, trying to be responsive to say, here's a set of what we examined. And I think it's fascinating what it shows. And we could produce other charts. You can go do the research. And so what am I expecting? I think it suggests the need for consideration. And I do think there's a need for change. Like, how do you explain some of the decisions that have been made? And I'll go back to Georgia a year and a half ago. Georgia was a two-time defending national champion. They lost one game in our championship game against Alabama. Not a lot of noise about them. Being undefeated was never an expectation for being selected into the 4 teams. That just isn't part of the criteria. Otherwise, like North Dakota State would be in there. That's a little bit extreme, but you understand the point. How do you make those decisions? And it's hard, and we trust the committee to do that, and I respect the people in there. So this isn't a criticism of the people. This is wanting to understand the decisions, and we have to have better clarity on the criteria that inform those decisions.
Yeah, I agree. We'll see how that goes when it comes to strength of schedule. That's the drive around the SEC. Jay versus the Internet is next. Welcome back into the postgame show. I'm going to tell you why I'm laughing, because we're not supposed to come on the air and laugh and then not share the joke. I was this many years old, or whatever they say, when I found out.
You were today years old.
Today years old. Thank you. I knew what I meant to say. When I found out that actress Sydney Sweeney is selling bath soap made with drops of what is being described as her own bath water.
We have regressed as a society so much.
And, yeah.
I will say the memes that have come from it. Like, I'm in tears. The one you just showed me, I'm in tears. Like, that one's.
Wow. So, if that's something that you feel is part of what you need, then.
Well, there may or may not be somebody in this building, I think, that is probably taken out a loan to check that out.
Wow. Wow. I just, it's another one of those things that would not have occurred to me. My brain would not have gone there. Like,
no.
You know what would be a good idea? Like soap made with water that I've already bathed in.
She's been collecting it for a while. She's going to make enough soap to sell a lot of bars.
And how do you verify this?
Whew. Oh, man.
All right.
More questions than answers.
It might not be a Jay versus the internet thing, but the internet is certainly having its say.
The internet is interneting. And find out more on tomorro's episode of the X-Files.
It is, because the particular tweet that I'm looking at has been viewed 68 million times. And that's just one. Who knows what else might be
Lord.
There. Wow.
I need no more numbers. Well, speaking of numbers.
Yeah, let's do it.
You went 3-0 last time. Yeah,
What?
Jay Phillips improving to not. Well, I think no. You went 2-1. You went 2-1. Just kidding.
Oh man,
Sorry, I lied.
Oh, I was all excited.
I'm a degenerate. 9-18 overall. Now you've improved to 9-18. The internet dropped 2 of 3, meaning you picked up the game. Right, no, they went 0-3. Just kidding. No, I'm looking at the wrong one. I'm looking at last night's or 2 nights ago. No, yeah, they went.
Yeah, I didn't do it yesterday.
The last time you squared off against the internet,
Right.
they went 0 for 3. You went 2-1. You picked up 2 games.
All right, that's good.
Internet's now 14-13.
Okay.
You're 9-18. You're making moves here.
Getting there.
So number 1 tonight, will Braves pitcher Grant Holmes strike out over under 5.5 Red Sox batters?
5.5. Under.
Jay says under. 55% of the internet says over.
Okay.
So you can pick up another one tonight there.
Good.
Will Matt Olson collect over under 1.5 hits, runs, and RBI against the Red Sox?
He's not doing well.
No.
God, that seems so easy. Yeah, he'll do it.
So they'll do it. Jay goes over. And with 56%, very close vote, the internet says over.
Yeah.
And lastly, tonight, Dodgers-Yankees. Will Aaron Judge or Shohei Ohtani hit a home run?
Yeah, one of them will, because, I mean, that just seems to be par for the course.
That's true. And 84% of the internet agrees with you.
Yeah, they've just been hitting home runs, man.
They do, but they don't hit them every game.
No, they don't.
That's the rub.
Yeah, that's an intriguing matchup for May turning into June. All right, good stuff. Thanks to Coach Beamer. Thanks to Langston. And thank you again, sir, for all you've done. I'll hopefully feel a whole lot better on Monday. Later.
You will.